This is the carry on and welcome to the stage. It's Ros Beeson.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that incredible introduction, Pete. I asked one thing, I said, treat me like a hype guy, like on rap, you know, when they're going, Gah! He goes, yeah, alright, she's pretty alright. Can you imagine that in a rap battle? Bring it on my mate now. He's alright, he's pretty alright, he's good at rapping, yeah, I like that. That's what you just did to me, Pete. And also, I am loving this front row. I feel like I am winning a game of Guess Who right now, and it's great. I'm like very much like the first guy. I do feel like I want to move this out, but at the same time, it does create the illusion that this is a stage and you're all watching me on this stage, right? And I may even get up on different levels at some point. I mean, there's no guarantee of that because health and safety is pretty strict on that, usually. Pete?
Oh yeah.
Oh, they're all cool. They're fine with it. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Just like me, it's all right to get up on a chair. I'm going to just dispute a few things. Also, creative writing graduate from Bath University. Thanks, Pete. Dissing the course. And second of all, my nephew, just born, very excited by that, is called Freddie. Fred. So it is a young person's name, and a very young person in fact, because he's only 3 weeks old. So I actually am in love with my little Effie right now. He's amazing, he's incredible, and I really want to be the best aunt like possible. So I want to be the aunt that kind of teaches in a fun way. So I went back to the things that my mum and dad used to read to me when I was a kid, and a lot of it was nursery rhymes and things like that. But I don't know if anyone's read a nursery rhyme recently. Anyone? No, it's not really the sort of Sunday evening reading, is it, a nursery rhyme? But they're actually a bit weird. I don't know, there's a few of them that get a bit disturbing towards the end of it. An example is the old woman who lived in a shoe. She does a lot of things, but at the end of it, she brings her children in. She feeds them all milk and bread, and then she gives them a beating and sends them to bed. For no reason. No background context, and I don't want to teach my little nephew that this is okay, you know, that this is what he's going to get treated to in the evening. So I've actually been working on updating children's nursery rhymes. I've got 3 clear ones I'm going to pitch to Penguin Publishing. I'm going to try them out with you guys. I want the appropriate responses here. Okay, so this first one goes, run, run as fast as you can, you can't catch me. Damn, that one's just entitled Obesity. The next one is off of The Old Woman Who Lived in a Shoe, but it's updated, you know. So, there was an old woman who lived in a shoe, and with a help to buy ISA, that could be you. Teaches him about, you know, the kind of things to expect when he gets older. And then finally this one, the owl and the pussycat went to sea. Spent their day on their phones until one had to pee. When they looked up, the land had disappeared. By day 3, Pussycat was growing a very nice beard. By day 4, Owl used the last of his battery to tell the world what he thought about his local Tory. While Cat used his to show Instagram his new beard on his Instagram story. Which is a bit about social media and how important it is connecting us all together. More important, you know, than life itself. Which is how most people feel nowadays. You feel like you have to really express it, you know? And that's what I think I'm going to try and get across to Penguin Publishing. If they will stop sending me those cease and desist letters, you know, with the private urgent stamp on them. Now, I've got a little confession to make, guys. Recently I killed a worm. I know, right? It's bad. But I didn't do it on purpose. I'm not a worm killer. I just went out for a little walk to clear my head and I stepped in some dog poo. And I was like, oh damn it. So I went to the grass and I started to wipe it off and I started getting really angry about it. And when I looked down finally to see how well I'd done, there was this little worm just sort of trapped staring up at me. It was kind of like a kind of gruesome version of that mosquito in Jurassic Park, you know? And I looked down at that worm and I just thought, oh my god, life is just so short, isn't it, you know? And there are just so many shit ways that you could die. And I thought about that little worm crushed on my shoe and I was like, I am with you, I get you, you know? Because I know what it's like to be crushed, you know? And I started about putting myself in that worm's shoes, or the worm's shoe, I guess, is probably more accurate, isn't it? And I thought about him on his last day, and I sort of give him a bit of anthropomorphic story, you know. So I thought about him getting up in the morning, putting on his tie, which is quite hard, because when you're a worm, you try and figure out what gen that goes on. Very difficult. Making himself a cup of coffee, tastes really like dirt, but he likes it. And then, you know, he's in the car and he's late for work, but that's okay because early bird. And then he gets to work and then bam, that's my shoe on his face. And like I say, I looked down and I thought, you know, we've all been crushed, haven't we? I mean, I was crushed when I was a kid, you know. I remember I had a lot of pressure from my parents when I was growing up. My dad used to get very upset if I failed tests at school. You know, every time I failed a maths test or an English test or a drugs test or a geography test. I couldn't understand why, you know? And it's not just about like tests in school and education, it's relationships as well when you're growing up. They are really hard. I don't know how difficult it was for you guys, but it's like, you know, figuring out the kind of first time that you start liking a guy or a girl. And you know, then it's the next stage is thinking about sex, and that's really difficult because that's just a big mindfuck game in its own right. And I, you know, I think it might be easier for kids nowadays with all the internet and the porns, you know, going on around. Because like, you know, if I think about porn, I still think of it in terms of it being like a sort of 1970s style kind of pornography where a guy kind of comes to fix something vaguely to do with maintenance. He's got this big bushy mustache, and he's you know, like that music that goes bang chicka bang bang as he walks in, you know, and she's like, oh, my washing machine's broken. It's like bang chicka bang bang, and then he's like, oh, I guess we better have sex then because the music's saying it. And then nothing gets done because they're just having sex on the appliance, you know, which I think probably explains a lot of the construction issues of the 1970s. But porn nowadays, I think, might be a little bit like, I don't know, more advanced. I actually don't really watch porn, but I did see an example of it the other day. So I was completely legally accessing this TV show online that I couldn't find on Netflix. And whilst I was completely legally accessing this TV show online, a pop-up ad came up, and I should have probably had ad blocker, but I quite like the surprise, you know? And this time, it was a bit of a 30-second porno video, like, you know, advertising a site. And I was captured by this porno video because it was really interesting, it's intriguing. And I'll tell you how it kind of went along. So, it's this, basically this video where this lady's sort of, she's lying on the sofa, resting her eyes, she's sleeping, and she's wearing her lingerie because one assumes it was very hot in the room, you know. This isn't something they told you, it's just context I was picking up from the visual cues. And she's lying back on the sofa, just, you know, sleeping and relaxing when a gentleman comes in. He sort of sees her lying on the sofa and he goes over and he takes out his penis and he just sort of gently drapes it along her face. She's surprised. She's expected. But then in a turn of events I didn't see, is then aroused. And I looked at this video and I was like, where is this relationship going? If that's the start of it, where is it going to go from there on? And I started thinking about it in terms of like, you know, like the first 10 minutes from Up, you know? So I'm thinking about their little future journey together. So to start with, I started thinking about that year-round anniversary where, you know, he comes into the bedroom in the morning, a year on, you know, surprises her with breakfast in bed, you know, there's a lovely fresh pot of coffee and some orange juice and a heart-shaped pancake, and she looks up and then he just casually drapes his penis across the pancakes. You know, and then a year on again, or a couple of years on, they're getting married. And the vicar's there, he's doing that bit about, you know, anyone have anything to say, blah, blah, blah. You know, and it's like, I do, and then he just casually drapes his penis across the vicar. And then it's that really crushing moment where, you know, they're in the hospital room, and the doctor comes in, and he has news that she's got cancer. And he looks up at her, and she looks down at him, and, you know, and you do that support, and then he casually drapes his penis across the doctor, you know? Or is it more like The Notebook, you know, and he's telling her this story of how they came together, you know, and she's looking up at him like, I just don't know who you are, you know, I haven't got a clue, and he takes out his penis and he just casually drapes it across her face. And then you see the light just go back on in her eyes as she remembers who he is, you know? Or maybe they went into the next room, banged, and then, you know, never saw each other again. I have no idea. This is the thing, this 30-second video opened up so many opportunities. And that's really exciting to me, you know? It's I think what I like about it is, with pornography, you can tell I'm definitely a connoisseur. With pornography, it's very black and white, isn't it? There's nothing really hidden. And And seamless segue here, you know what else is black and white? Penguins. And I love penguins, they're my favourite animal, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because they are incredibly smart. I don't actually mean, intellectually, they just look really smart. They're wearing a little tuxedo and it is great, it's my favourite thing. And I have a dream, this really bizarre, wild dream one day, that how we're looking for the next James Bond, right? And you know how we just kind of progressively moved forward with the female Doctor Who, right? The next logical step in that is surely a penguin James Bond. And I love to see that, because I think you wouldn't have that kind of backlash that you've seen on Facebook and and Twitter and so on, because everything would just be black and white. Oh, come on, I'm trying again. Everything would be black and white. Yeah, that's the reaction I was looking for. This is interesting because you know what else is black and white? Not my childhood. When I watch back things again, like The Simpsons, I realise now how dirty it was. And I remember reading an article the other day about The Simpsons, which is really interesting because it's a TV show that appeals to loads of different generations. So when you're a baby, you enjoy it because it's bright colours and shapes. And when you're a kid, you enjoy it because it's a cartoon and it's got some dirty humour, but it's mostly like quite polite and friendly and fun. When you're an adult, you realise humour actually was super dirty, but they were just hiding it with layers and layers of innuendo, which is great, But then I look back at other things in my childhood and I realise actually they are, like lots of other things are much worse than I actually had ever known it to be as a child. And I'll give an example. The other day I was listening to Shaggy's It Wasn't Me. Remember that one? Everyone remember that one? Great song, when I was a kid I loved that, It Wasn't Me. It was great repetition, great for a kid. Listening to the lyrics and then looking at the lyrics as I then did after I listened to it, I realised that there's a lot more to the actual song than just that alone. And I'm going to give you a little breakdown of a few thoughts that came out as I was rereading and re-listening to Shaggy's It Wasn't Me. So anyone not familiar with the song, as if that's anyone in the room, right? Basically starts out with Shaggy is sort of like chilling out, and then his mate Ricardo comes over and he's like, oh man, my girl just caught me, and Shaggy's like, you let your girl catch you? And he's like, oh man, because Shaggy's super chivalrous, and he's like, ah. And then he goes, come on then Ricardo, lay it down, what's happened? And Ricardo says, all right, honey came in and she caught me red-handed, creeping with the girl next door. And Shaggy doesn't take a second just to think about this and do like I had, which is, why, Ricardo, are you cheating on the girl next door in your apartment? If you just had the affair next door, wouldn't that be the end of the problem? The whole song would have just gone, honey came in. That would have been it, But Shaggy doesn't bring this up and mention this to Ricardo. Instead, he lets him go on, talking about how his girlfriend kind of came in, giving the extra key, sneaks into the house, which I assume she sneaks into the house because all the time she was standing there, she never took her eyes off me. So there must have been a moment where either Ricardo and his lover were being extremely, extremely loud, or she's being extremely, extremely quiet coming into the house. And he says, picture this, we were both butt naked banging on the bathroom floor. Which isn't exactly the sexiest room in the house, is it? It's not the first place I would choose. I don't think I've ever been in a scenario where I've gone out with a guy, he's taken me back to his place and he's been turning down the lights, turning up the music, pouring out a glass of red wine, and then he's like, should we take this to the bathroom? Shaggy doesn't mention this either. I don't know whether for Shaggy it's the idea of the alluring smell of toilet duck, or the chance of seeing like skid marks on the porcelain bowl, but he's like, I'm on board with this, yeah. So his girlfriend, she comes in, she sneaks into the house and she beelines for the bathroom because it is the sexiest room in the house. And she stands there watching him. All right. And never takes her eyes off me. And then essentially Shaggy goes, right, okay, have you told her it wasn't you? And he's like, I'm going to need a little bit more than that, Shaggy, because there's more going on. And Shaggy goes on and sort of basically gives him like various degrees of advice, some of which is a bit confusing at times. I'm going to play a little piece of advice from Shaggy now. This is the best he has to offer. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Understandable. Very relevant, do you not feel? Now, if we didn't catch that, which you may not have because there's a few subtle nuances in there, what Shaggy's actually pointing at is a few things. Now, he says a few odd lines. He says, if she say a night, convince her say a day, which is a confusing sentence. But I've actually taken to my books and I've decided that what he's doing here is he's referencing Shakespeare. Because there's a line in Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, I think it is, where Viola is talking to Olivia and she references the moon and the stars and the night and the day. And that's obviously what Shaggy's doing, because in the next line, he then quotes from Shakespeare again, when he quotes from Hamlet and says, to be a true player, you have to know how to play. Which I think is from Act 3, Scene 2, in Hamlet, when Polonius dies. I don't know, does anyone else remember that one? And then he goes on, and he says about, if your girlfriend's going to get violent, I wouldn't call the police. Which is just bad advice at this point, isn't it? It's really bad advice. So Ricardo's looking at him, and he's like, okay. But she caught me on the counter. She saw me banging on the sofa. I even had her in the shower. Sexiest room in the house. She even caught me on camera. In the early 2000s, when camera phones weren't a thing, guys, when she would have had to have gone into the living room, taken out the JVC, gone back to the bathroom, and filmed it. This girl's not kind of coming across very well in this, is she? And she's standing there filming it, and Ricardo says, she stayed until it was over. Why? Why would you stay till the climax? What's she doing? Filming a porno? Am I going to find this on some totally legally accessed site when I'm trying to find a show on Netflix that pops up and it's just Shaggy banging, no, not even Shaggy, Ricardo just banging this girl in a shower somewhere? Which, if the case is, then I don't really feel that bad for the girlfriend anymore. Because she's obviously got some sort of multi-million conglomerate going on. But if I was going to give her the benefit of the doubt here, and she's not making a porno, the one thing I'd have to assume that she's doing is getting proof, right? So I've got to assume that what's happened is she's previously come home, caught him cheating on her, and she's been like, what's going on? And he's like, Shaggy, I don't know what to do. And Shaggy's like, tell her it wasn't you. And he's like, it wasn't me. And she's like, maybe it wasn't him. Don't have it on camera, you know? And if that is the case, then really I have no sympathy for this girl, because that is a really, really, really sweet move. So, when I was a child, I always thought that the girlfriend was being hard done by, but now I'm starting to think there's a different victim in this game. And I'm going to reference the second part of Shaggy's song when he gives his next piece of advice, right? Now listen closely, guys, because this is really good advice. Yeah. Poetic. Yep. Noontime Mass. I don't know if you heard that last bit there. He says if she packs a gun, you better run fast. Now, coupled with the first part of Shaggy's song where he kind of sneaks it in there and says, if she's going to get violent, I wouldn't call the police. And the idea that if she's got a gun, you better run fast makes me think maybe Shaggy is in a domestic violence abuse situation here. And if that's true, then Ricardo is the worst friend in the world, because he is standing there, watch Shaggy, and he's going, but she caught me on the counter? And Shaggy's going, yeah, my girlfriend beats me. She even had it in the shower, that's where I go to cry. You know? And to add more kind of volition to my idea and my theory here, Ricardo goes on to say, alright Shaggy, obviously he's like a crying ball on the floor at this point, and he says, you know what, we better go tell her that we're sorry for the things that we've done. Shaggy wasn't involved in this. Shaggy's just an innocent bystander here, which Makes me think this song is incredibly clever in a kind of Game of Thrones style way, right? Here's my theory. Okay, so if we're using time travel as a kind of concept here, anyone, you guys with all the clever degrees going on, this is my idea. So time travel going on, right? So Shaggy from the past is saying, it wasn't me. It wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. When we get to the end of the song, or relatively the future, or the present day, we find out that Ricardo is trying to blame him for his girlfriend's cheating on him. So, very much in the way in Game of Thrones when Hodor is holding the door. I think what's happening here is Shaggy started out with kind of some semblance of an argument, you know, he tried to make his point, you know, if she packs a gun, blah, 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 and it slowly get less and less and less coherent until he just got down to, it wasn't me, 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 hold the door, it wasn't me, it wasn't me, hold the door, it wasn't me, it wasn't me, until eventually we move on to Shaggy's other song, which is the other song Shaggy did is, oh, I can only think of Angel now, which is completely fucked up because he doesn't go from it wasn't me to Angel, does he? Oh, can anyone remember Shaggy's second song?
It's about a lady beginning with C, isn't it?
It is about a lady beginning with C, which kind of rhymes with it wasn't me. So I'm going to end it there, guys, on probably the worst end to a joke because I forgot the punchline ever, which probably points out the idea that Rick was saying there, which is Ros is pretty alright. So, thanks for listening to me, guys. I've been Ros Beeson, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the night.